President Albert George, on behalf of the University of Pennsylvania and Perry Worldhouse, welcome to the United States, welcome to Philadelphia, and welcome to Penn. Friends, in a term of endearment I understand in Mongolia, he is referred to as the golden sparrow of democracy, the President of Mongolia.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction. Excellencies, esteemed professors, dear students, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm really thrilled to be here today in this wonderful city, in this university, and meeting with you. And I really dreamed to come to this city. And I passed a lot from Boston to Washington. And I thought one day I will stop here. And because this city is the birthplace of American liberty and independence, and I'm a fighter for liberty. And this is really great value for us. And today I would like to talk about my country. And I know many of you know about Mongolia. Many of you have some information, and I think you need more information about my country. And I will put my, my talk in three parts, of course. Yeah, first part is our history. And Mongolian statehood accounted 2,225 years. This year we actually celebrated 2,225 years of establishment of Mongolian statehood. And during, from the Kun Empire, and there was also a successful empire called Mongolian Empire, and you may see the map. That was our territory. And but not today. This is just 800 years ago. This empire was founded. This empire was ruled under the written law called Great Order. Why Mongolians were successful? I think Mongolians were successful because we respected the religious belief, we respected culture, we respected free trade of movement. And during Mongolian Empire, and you know, during Kublai Khan, actually today Kublai Khan's birthday. 801 years ago, just today, that great king Kublai Khan was born. During his time, when he reigned in today's Beijing, when he established his own empire, own dynasty called Yuan dynasty, he actually invented first paper money. And many, many new inventions come from the Kublai Khan and Genghis Khan. If you would like to ask questions related with Mongolian history, I'm really happy to answer to that. One thing, of course, Mongolians first established Western Express, Pony Express type of the messenger system in Mongolia. Kublai Khan established that existed for 7 centuries. From Mongolian old capital to the Beijing, that messenger took the 7 days. Within the 7 days, from Mongolian capital Karakorum to Beijing, that took only 7 days. Fresh man, fresh horse, 30 kilometers. In every 30 kilometers, one new station, new horse, fresh man, and carrying the king's decree and that message all over the world, all the way to Europe, all the way to the Middle East. There was a big land under the Mongolian Empire. We actually remained in Middle East for 2 centuries. And one time I visited Tehran. One time I was in Iran. When I met Ayatollah Khamenei, when he shook my hand, he said, "We are very grateful for Mongolians, for Mongolia." That was really big news for me. And I asked why. And he said, during the great king, Mongolian king, actually in Iran, they choose, he decreed that make Shia religion a state religion there. And Ayatollah Khamenei regarded head of the Shia religion. And the Mongolians first built the first observatory and still the observatory building and the remain there is in Iran. That was really surprising. Mongolians first established university. Mongolians first established hospital for mentally ill people there. And Mongolians first established library there. And because of that, I think he was very grateful for us, for Mongolians. And in many places, that happened in Europe, in Asia, in many places. And one thing people are really surprised when I talk about Mongolia, we had the biggest navy during that time. And many people think that it's impossible Mongolia having biggest navy. If you see that empire territory, I think we tried to invade 2 times Japan. Mongolians thought there is no land. And that was every known land is under Mongolian Empire, and we tried to invade 2 times Japan from Korea, from Jeju Island. And we sent 15,000 ships. Every ship had 60, 80 sailors there. Imagine how big was that navy. But there was the hurricane. Japanese called it kamikaze. Japanese called it divine wind, but Mongolians called it bad weather. Okay, I will stop here. After that, this great empire, of course, had many issues and disintegrated, and it took 300 or 400 years. And in the beginning of 20th century, Mongolia regained its independence, its freedom. And Mongolia became, in the beginning of the 1920s, Mongolia became second communist country on earth. And communism, remained in Mongolia for 70 years. And to this third part, of course, is related with the democratic revolution in my country. I am the youngest son of 8 sons. For generations, my family lived as nomadic herdsmen in the western highlands of Mongolia. My father was one of Mongolia's 100,000 socialist nomadic herdsmen. And he was the worker of the socialist collective. And he tended hundreds of sheep, but they all were state property. During that time, a man had no rights. Instructions came from above. If he wanted to slaughter one sheep for food, he had to get written permission. The same was true to travel in the provinces of Mongolia. In the 1930s, early 1940s, my father was a soldier. He served his country far from his home, from his loved ones. It was a very turbulent time. My mother would say to us, my mother used to say to me that I have waited for 5 years for one letter from your father. He was in the army 5 years. He wrote one letter. Of course, my father had neither the time nor a luxury to write letters, messages like we do today. Yet he used that little free time he had to learn to write. At least he managed to write that single letter to my mother, which is cherished so much. That was a really different time. All of this happened just 2 generations ago. Today we live in a totally different world. My father and my mother never dreamed that one day their youngest son would speak from this podium to you and from this birthplace, American liberty and independence. I'm really thankful for my parents. I'm really thankful for the free choice of my nation. But this is not about me. I'm here to speak for my people, about my country. I am proud of my motherland, Mongolia. I am proud of our history, our culture, our traditions, and natural beauty that surrounds us. But most of all, I am proud of our spirit and our values. The brief story of my country's modern history and our journey to democracy will sound familiar to many of you in the early 1920s, Mongolia came under communist rule, which I mentioned. Both foreign and domestic agents of communist experiment committed horrific brutality on our soil. During Stalinist purge, 1 out of every 6 adult men was killed. Mongolian family clans, their long cherished heritage, their descendants were systematically exterminated. More than 700 Buddhist temples were burned to the ash. The communists targeted the very spirit of our nation, but they were not destined to win, not destined to last forever. In the end, our will to free prevailed. After many years, our defining moment finally arrived. On the cold morning of December 10, 1989, you will see this photo, we organized the first unauthorized public street meeting in our capital city, Ulaanbaatar. I was fortunate enough to be chosen by my fellow democracy fighters to moderate that historic event. With in a hand with microphone, this is myself. Maybe my friends counted on my humble experience of 5 years of study in era perestroika, glasnost in Western Ukraine, in the city of Lvov. I opened with these words, this meeting. We have remained silent for a long time. This is our time to work. This is the time for reform. That morning, we demanded our rights of freedom of assembly, of speech, of religion, of freedom of the press. We demanded to create a multi-party system, conduct democratic elections, and begin market reforms. It was the beginning of my country's journey to liberty, justice, and openness. The old regime was stubborn. The old mindset was strongly resistant to change. We organized many meetings, demonstrations, and hunger strikes. We tried to eliminate every reason for violence. We always called for compromises, for peaceful solutions. The winter of 1989, the spring of 1990 in Mongolia were very long, but they gave birth to true revolution. Decades of rule without the consent of the government were swept aside. Individual rights and liberties prevailed. And since that day, quarter century ago, we have transformed from a dictatorship to a democracy, from being one of the most isolated, closed communist regimes in the world to one of the most open. And some highlights from our revolution. I think I would like to highlight three moments here. Mongolia's democratic revolution was totally peaceful. During and through the turbulence of dramatic changes in 1990, no single shot was fired, no single window was shattered, no single drop of blood was shed. Second, since the beginning of the revolution, my country conducted simultaneous political, economic, social reforms. You know, many still believe that doing such reforms at the same time is not an Asian way. But this is fairy tale. We Mongolians broke that old stereotype. We successfully reformed our political, economic, and social systems concurrently since 1990 at the very heart of Asia. Third, our experience shows that there is no need to import any foreign form of development. Just unleash the power of freedom. Just let the people exercise their rights, their opportunities, and their genius. Then miracle happens. We have seen it in Mongolia too. Today we've got dynamic market economy, vibrant, plural, creative society. Our per capita GDP has increased more than 20-fold since 1990. Our private sector is producing now more than 80% of our gross domestic product. Just 25 years ago, 99% was produced by the state enterprises. Now, more than 80% is produced by the private enterprises. I'm really convinced that free people are always creative, always learn, and always progress. One thing people ask me questions that, why do Mongolians choose democracy? Why do Mongolians choose democracy? It's because Mongols say that it's better to live by choice, by own choice, however bitter it is, than to live by others' rule, however sweeter it is. It is because a democracy is based on faith of the dignity and worth of every single individual as human being. It is because a democratic society aims at the highest development of every one of its members. That's why we choose democracy. For Mongolia, democracy is not simply a question of structures. You cannot be democratic one day and undemocratic on another. Democracy today cannot be seen apart from Mongolia's integrity and fame. It is a state of mind, way of living, and essence of action. It is a different and creative way of development. It is a way of global connection and universal recognition. That's why we choose democracy. Second thing, people ask why Mongolians love freedom. Why do we Mongolians love freedom? It's because we earned it through hard labor. It is because we know that freedom is our property, our genuine right from the birth. It is because freedom gives the ruling power to the people. People know that government in a free country cannot be property of any specific man or family. That's why we love freedom. We do believe in the power of freedom. The size of our population and economy may be modest, but our freedom-loving spirit and our freedom-exercising experience make Mongolia big and relevant. We know even in a big house opens with a small key. That's why we love freedom. The beauty of freedom is that it's a learning process. This is healing system of human society. We can make mistakes, but it will not cost our life as in a dictatorship. That's why we love freedom. Thank you very much.